Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2, Super Mini Mail Call. Oh wait, sorry, no, this is not what that is. We're actually going to be doing a quick video on the Soroc IQ-120. There were a series of videos on the main channel where I got this machine working again, and yeah, it's totally working now, but with the one problem being this, the CRT. I think it was in part 3 that I tried to swap this CRT for an amber one that I had. It was the same physical mounts and connections on the back, but it did not work in here. And the reason why I believe that it didn't work was because the G2 voltage, the screen voltage on the amber CRT was around 500 to 600 volts for you to see an image. And the driver board that's in here has a very fixed amount of voltage it can output for G2. And this particular CRT here uses like 230 to 280 volts or so. And there isn't any adjustability outside of that range for other CRTs. They pretty much purpose designed it for just this one. I even did a little hack where I hooked up focus voltage to the screen, which was around 400 volts, but I still got no image at all. But we can see here that the CRT that's on here obviously is displaying an image without any issues, but it's got this horrible cataracts problem. Now don't worry, I'm going to make a video once the weather's a bit nicer to try to sort out this cataract problem. Lots of people commented that it shouldn't be too difficult, but what you have to do is heat the front of the CRT to loosen this glue that's on here and then pry off this safety glass that's on here and then try to reattach it onto this. There's definitely some risk of implosion with glass going everywhere when you do that, so you have to make sure you do it outside and be fully covered with a face shield and cover up your hands with gloves and all your clothes and stuff so you don't get glass shards just in case something goes terribly wrong. Also, the PVA glue that's on here, when you heat it, apparently stinks really bad, so you wouldn't want to do that inside. Who knows what kind of toxic fumes are released from this. Now, the time I tried to do the swap in part 3, I did not have another CRT that would have been compatible with this. But then something just sort of fell into my lap, so to speak. And it's this right here. This is an RCA 12-inch CRT that appears to be white phosphor, P4 phosphor, and I hooked it up to my tester, my CRT tester, and that can help me determine what the G2 or screen voltage is on these CRTs. And this one definitely has emissions and cutoff when the screen voltage or G2 is set to the 300 volt range. And on my tester, that means the range is like 200 to 300 volts, and there's a 600 volt setting, and that's from like 500 to 600 volts. And that is what I needed to use on the amber one. But on this one here, this RCA CRT, the lower setting works, which tells me that this should work without issue in the Soroc, because this appears to be one of the types of CRTs that is happy with that lower screen voltage. Now, I don't really know much about this particular CRT other than, like I said, it's an RCA brand. And if we flip this over here, it's very dusty. I should probably wear gloves. Looks like it's a 12YCL-P4. P4 being the white phosphor that this thing has on the front. And there it is. We have probably the slightest amount of burn-in on there, but that's no big deal, right? I mean, it's a terminal, who really cares? This does not have safety glass, that's what's important. And of course it has the implosion band on here, and the mounting tabs are in the correct location. They're facing towards the back. So I guess what I want to do in this video is swap this thing into there. On the tester, like I said, the emissions are decent, so it should produce a pretty good image. It's definitely worn out, but on a terminal which has just black and white, there's no gradations or contrast. You really need just between the black and the white, but no shades of gray. This should work without issue. The deflection yoke that's on here, I suppose what I could do too is we could measure the inductance on this thing, see if it's even compatible with this one, because if it is, I'd rather just leave this in place and do away with the one that was in here, because we know this PVA glue leaked all over that deflection yoke, and I'm still concerned that it could cause issues in the future. So I'd rather use this if possible. Okay, so looking at this, we have 2 tabs on this side, and I think there are 2 tabs, yeah, right there as well. Okay, here's something that's interesting. We got 4.4 mH or millihenries, and I'm hooked up to the tab that's towards us, towards the camera on the label side, and away from us on the anode side. But this tab that's away from us on this side goes through this little capacitor here. And if I hook up to this side of the capacitor, now we're getting 1728 microhenries. Okay, I went to my own video. It looks like the original one that's in here is 73.58 millihenries and 120 microhenries. Then we're getting 46 microhenries, and that's versus 73 on the other one, so that's not really compatible. And then the other one, like I said, was 4.4 millihenries. If I go there, if I go to the other side of this little capacitor, yeah, it's 1700 microhenries there, and it's 119 microhenries on the original. So yeah, completely different. I don't know what the CRT came out of. So maybe it was a television, who knows? Obviously, the board that was driving this thing was designed for this particular yoke. So I'm just gonna get this off of here. So we loosen the mounting band. I actually have no idea where this thing came from. Basically, this CRT was about to be e-wasted, and it was just sitting in a box exactly like this, just sort of face down. So beats me. It's dusty. Got a missing label there. I mean, I don't know. There's a bit of corrosion on here. Yeah, who knows? Hopefully it produces a good image and is compatible with the Soroc. So with the CRT ready to go, we need to get the Soroc apart. Don't need to show that. What is it? 2 screws here, 2 on the back, plus another one above the fan. So 3 in the top comes right off. And then the CRT should be pretty easy to remove. There's 4 fasteners, you know, all the usual stuff. So let me do a jump cut. Now, folks had mentioned about the cataracts, by the way, that this PVA glue is potentially water soluble. So someone suggested potentially leaving this face down in a little bit of water, just enough to submerge the glue, and that might actually eat it away. That would be interesting. Not sure I've ever seen anyone talk about that before. So I'm just loosening the fasteners here. The 2 bottom ones are out, the 2 top ones are loose. What I need to do now is take off the deflection yoke here. The deflection yoke is totally loose on the back. So the fasteners are out, and I should just be able to get this out now. Deflection yoke is still attached, but oops, it just sort of slid off. So there's the CRT, the cataracts one. I want to just give this thing a little bit of a clean before we stick it in. Just get a lot of this dust off at least. Whatever this is here is pretty sticky. So I'm just going to try to get that off. Now, you don't want to take this gray paint off here. It's black paint. That's the Aquadag. That is necessary for the operation of the CRT. But around here, this stickiness here doesn't need to be on there. Not at all. Okay, it's probably good enough. We'll get this in. So what I need to do is get the deflection yoke slid onto this, just to keep it from flopping down onto the circuit board. And I'm going to get these fasteners in here. All right, I have 2 fasteners in. This wire, well, it's not needed on this set, but I have it going through here, so that's not ideal. So I just need to get one of these on this side. I was just struggling to do it by hand there, so that's why I went to 2 on the other side. There we go. Now there are 2 there, so I can get this lower one out and get this wire untangled here. So as I said, this wire's not needed on this set because some CRTs either have a ground point on the driver board or they have something on the neck board, but this doesn't have a neck board and it just didn't have this originally. There are these sort of copper things that touch the side of the CRT, and those take the place of this. It grounds through the chassis. Okay, that is in. What's not hooked up yet is the high voltage connection that goes over here on the same side, on the left side actually, which is interesting because the other Amber CRT that I was trying to install, it had the anode cap on the top, or the anode connection on the top. Not sure if that actually means anything. I didn't really check to see if this thing has any scratches on it. Sometimes if a CRT is just sort of stuck on a hard surface with grit or dirt, it can actually scratch the glass. But this one looks like it's in perfect shape. And do I see any burn-in? Yeah, there's some down at the bottom here. So maybe this thing was a computer display monitor from another terminal even, for all I know. And hey, how fitting if it works on this thing and goes back into another terminal. So I'm just going to hook up this anode cap, something really to see. And we just need to hook up the connection to the back of the CRT here. There we go. It's clear that this CRT, the connector here, has the exact same orientation of the pins because there's a gap, like with a key. And sometimes you have to rotate the connector around if it's not in the exact right position, but seems like it is here. Okay, I think it's actually time for testing. So I'm going to plug the power in here. High voltage is connected. Power's off right now. CRT should be grounded properly. I don't know, I'm just double checking that there's nothing out of the ordinary. The deflection yoke is just loosely sitting on the back. I think we're ready for a test. Here we go. Got the power on, obviously. Okay, I am not seeing anything, unfortunately, on screen. I'm going to adjust the brightness and contrast controls, which are over here. Oh, cursor. All right. Oh yeah, it's bright. It's very bright. Oh, this is great. Let me turn off the lights. We have a bright, super sharp cursor. Okay, it's a little fuzzy. But what happened? That was weird. Let's get up to the top here. Press the home key. So there we go. That's the full deflection. Let's get the deflection yoke turned. There we go. Looking really good. It's super bright. It's a little blurry right now though, and that's there might be a focus control that I need to adjust. But let's get the deflection yoke first of all tightened down. Oh, I better turn this off because unfortunately the clamp fell off and was laying on the motherboard. Oops, that could have been a disaster. Yeah, this was just sitting on the motherboard. Luckily, it was just sitting flat and it was just on top of some chips, so it wasn't shorting anything. Okay, the clamp has been reattached and I had to unplug the connector on the back of the CRT first to get that on. But now we should be able to turn this on. I get this finally adjusted and then I can tighten this down. Does that have key repeat? Oh, I forgot this has repeat. Perfect. So we'll get that there and down at the bottom. I don't want it to scroll. I can't remember if it does. Oh, shoot, it does. Okay, let's do that again. Type a whole bunch of A's on the bottom. And then we'll put another set of A's on the top just so I can get a good reference for how this thing looks. You know what? I mean, it's fine. I don't think there's any issues here. Maybe a little bit of a turn. Okay. Oh, maybe that's too much. Okay, so we got some controls on the back here, which I don't think I ever adjusted. This one, what does this one do? This one appears to be vertical size, maybe? Oh, actually, you know, the one I was adjusting is linearity, because it's all squished at the top and wide at the bottom. So I just want to get the A's even between the top and the bottom. I think that's pretty good. Just type some A's here so I can kind of reference the size. There may be a little squished at the top still. Now the image is a bit shifted down. That's controlled by centering rings that are around the deflection yoke. So let's see if those turn. Oh, they're really scratchy, but they do turn. You can move the entire image around. This is only for black and white CRTs. All right, so over here on the other side, we have some pots. This one, I don't even know what that does. It doesn't seem to do anything. How about the one next to it? Okay, this seems to be a screen control because it's lowering the entire intensity of the entire thing. So I'm going to just turn that up. But the other one, is this a focus control? Maybe. Oh, yes, it is. Okay. Yeah, definitely is focus. So there's a focus control, a screen control, vertical linearity, and vertical hold. There are two other pots that are sideways. They look like maybe they adjust voltage for the 5-volt regulator. Not positive they're over by that connector. So right now, the text is not super sharp. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. Okay, hopefully that is in focus. I don't know. I can't really tell on the camera. I'm gonna hope that that's in focus, at least over here. So the A's are a little they're a little blurry, but you know what? They're very bright as well. Okay, so as you can see, we can see retrace line. So this is the brightness control, and that's working as it should. So I turn that down so you don't see the retrace lines. And then as far as the characters here, we're going to turn it down so it's pretty clear, but yeah, I can see scan lines, but on this, at the same point, it's not very bright. I think the CRT is just a little tired. So what I'm going to do is, while it's like this, I'm going to adjust the focus for maximum sharpness, which I think was this control here. That's about as good as it can get, but it's pretty sharp. But unfortunately, when you turn up the contrast control, which changes the intensity, it gets a little blurry. But you know what? It's an old terminal with an old CRT. You can't expect perfection. Using the hash symbol though, or the number sign, yeah, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. And it freaking works. Check that out. Looking nice, nice and sharp. No cataracts. Awesome. Yeah, so I guess I was right about the whole G2 screen voltage thing. The Amber CRT, it just needs a higher screen voltage. And I've definitely run across that. You can measure the screen voltage on the back of the CRT on the connector. You have to be careful doing it because we're talking about potentially 600 volts. And 500 to 600 volts is relatively common for later computer type CRTs, green and amber. But these older television style P4 phosphor 12-inch ones, which are very commonly used in TVs, these, on the other hand, seem to run in that 230 to 250, 260, 270 volt range for the G2 screen. When the G2 voltage is too low, like is produced by the board that's in here, you just get no image at all. And I know you might think, well, maybe you should see something very faintly, but no, you do not. The grids inside the CRT neck, if you imagine that this is the neck here, and you have the cathode and the heater over here on the right side, and the electrons are shooting this way towards my arm. Well, the grids are blocking or are used to regulate the flow of electrons, where the G2 is used to kind of control the overall flow, which changes the overall brightness of the entire screen, the black level, which is why when you turn it up, you start to see those retrace lines. When you turn it down, you get this cutoff and you get rid of those, and then you have a nice contrast between the light and the dark. And we can see now with this one, because it has the correct 280 volt or whatever it is, it's freaking working perfectly and no cataracts. So thinking about this, one of the issues is I'm going to need to put the lid back on, and then I have a feeling that this CRT is going to be too far back with the bezel. So what we have to do is flip this on its side. Once the cover's back on, we can get the motherboard opened up, so we get the motherboard sort of tilted away. And then I can loosen the fasteners that hold the CRT in, and I should be able to slide this forward a little bit. And then that way it can be flush with the top cover. So let me do that. Oh, that looks good. That looks really good. I haven't made the adjustment with the position yet, so there is the gap, but I just love how this looks without the cataracts. I mean, just look at that. Awesome looking, isn't it? What a cool looking terminal with this dark textured color here and the light grayish beige on the edges. Just awesome. And there is the gap, and it's pretty substantial. I can get this screwdriver in there completely. So it's significant without the safety glass there, but we should be able to fix it, I'm hoping. I hope it wasn't a mistake to put the top cover on, but how else am I gonna know how far to adjust this forward? All right, the terminal is up on its side, and I think I just take these fasteners out here where the motherboard can flip away, and then we have access to the fasteners that hold the CRT on. And how am I gonna slide it forwards without having access to do it? Yeah, I think I made a mistake by putting the cover on. I just wanted to see how the gap was first, but I don't know. Let's take out the fasteners here, and then I'll see what I can do. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, maybe what I can do with the fasteners out is just take the entire computer and tilt it forwards, and then the CRT module should slide and rest up against the bezel, and we have the minimum gap possible. I think I should actually have the terminal sitting completely flipped upside down, because the motherboard might fall out, and I don't really want that. I realize that the keyboard is connected at the front. Okay, you know what, actually I can reach that, so I can unplug the keyboard like that. And then the motherboard connections are at the back. Let's get the camera tilted up here. So I think if I pull this forward, I can just, yeah, I have access to the fasteners for the monitor now, which are flatheads. So you just turn them a little bit so they're loose, but don't take them out, obviously. Otherwise it would fall down. And there's one here. So the 3 screws are loose. Let's try to slide it forward now. Okay, it's as far forward as it can go. So I'm just going to retighten these now. And I'll place the motherboard back in position. Like that. And I'll have to get the keyboard reconnected. There's enough length to the keyboard that I feel like they thought that this would be something that you might do. There we go. Okay, it's back on its feet and it's fine. It's not perfect. There's still a gap. Okay, there's no gap there or there, but there's a bit of a gap on the sides. Okay, only on one side. Whatever, it's minor. Unlike before, you can't get, like I can't stick my fingers in there. There's just a little bit of a gap, but I doubt this thing was ever designed to be perfect. And I'm gonna power this on. Let's see if it still works. Let's hope it still works. Come on, come on. Yes, there it is. Now it is kind of interesting. Is that all the way up? Yes, it is. Oh, I didn't realize I could do that. Okay. I'd say the image is shifted down a little bit, but you know what? It's never gonna be perfect. It's a CRT. Yeah, that looks freaking awesome. I have the brightness turned down a little bit so it doesn't bloom. Obviously, we have a bit of light shining on the screen there, so you'd want to use this in a darker room. When the CRT was new, it would have been brighter without blooming. That's just what happens. The cathode wears out a little bit, the emissive material. You could try rejuvenating it, but as it ages, it just sort of dims. And then when you turn up the brightness more to compensate, then you get that blooming where it just loses focus. And there's no way to fix that other than trying to rejuvenate it or putting a stronger CRT in. But in a dim lit room, like I'm down here in the basement without all the studio lights on, it's completely fine, it's completely readable. And the fact that there's no cataracts, it looks so darn good. So there we go, this was actually a short video. Just putting this cloth down here. And this is the CRT that came out of here that needs to have the front safety glass removed so we can de-cataract it. And that'll have to be for a future video, like I said, when the weather is nicer. And hopefully that'll be doable. And then I'll have a nice spare CRT. I don't know if this thing has any burn-in on it, but I don't think so. The image looked good through the PVA glue, what I could see. But I'm glad to have saved this CRT from e-waste and basically fixed up this monitor. And it's nice that it's actually black and white as well. And hopefully, like I said, I can get this one de-cataract and then it'll work as well for a future repair. I basically keep a little stock of CRTs like this. I just box them up with a lot of bubble wrap in a box that's the right size, and I take a toilet paper roll, an old toilet paper roll, and I stick it on there, and I basically wrap it in bubble wrap, and that keeps this part protected here. And then in the future, if I need to do something similar, like I have some bad CRT, then I can do that, and there we go. It looks good. So if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up. If you didn't even know what to do, huge thanks to my supporters. Their names are going up the side of the screen to make it possible I do this full time. Comment down below, subscribe, all the usual YouTube junk, and that is going to be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.